I'm Chad Craig, and this is Money Mindsets Matter. And remember, if you're not preparing, you're not prepared. And if money doesn't matter, then what's the matter? Now, Nelson Nash talked about that for people to get all of their free income flowing into their systems would take decades for the average person. Okay, because of so much of the money that's coming into their hands already obligated to go to someone else's bank. And so Nelson, in his book, Becoming Your Own Banker, said that the normal person, it's 35 cents of every dollar is going to outstanding debt. That, you know what that is? That's 35%. It's a weird looking 5. 35%. Now I want you to think about something. If you did nothing else but intentionally and consciously understand you're already in the banking business and create and move forward with your system, taking back control and starting your banking business, and did nothing else other than store already your current emergency fund, your current savings, and allow it to go in your system into where you're currently storing and putting it, this is going to provide way more benefits, options, now and in the future. But also, then it can begin to tackle outstanding debt. And if you just recapture what the average person is having flow away from them, 35%, 35 cents of every dollar gets recaptured and begins to go into your systems. Think about that. Now that's just this. That's why earlier I mentioned if you're already a business owner, you probably already are beyond understanding some of this because you understand the value of cash flow and the cost of capital. If you oversee, like I do, a local church or a nonprofit that, deals with, significant of assets and money and building projects, you understand all of those dynamics. Just reach out to me, have a clarity call. We can move beyond this and talk about, not just savings, not just emergency fund, not just recapturing the average, but how to long-term multiply money and move it forward, in productive wealth creation aspects, all right? So I wanted you to see this because this is how, and you can run the numbers. You can know, all right? And if you're unable to run the numbers, then set a clarity call with me, and I'll look. We did, with a client even today at their outstanding debt, what's going away, what cash flow they have, how much they can get going into their Creek Bank, their system, which then would determine how much cash value, determine how much access to the money pool, which determines how much they could begin to pull out at lower interest rate and start attacking that, So they do that alone, they're winning. They're winning beyond the average person, And I want that for you. And long term, if you're willing to be even beyond just the average person, continue to stay around. We'll talk about wealth creation, or go ahead and reach out to me and we'll talk through those dynamics, all right? Let me, before we conclude this episode, I want to erase this. I want to show you one more. So again, this is a reason why busyness, and there's a lot of other dynamics and variables that do all they can for you not to see that and understand that. Why? Because they want your hard labor and work to continue to have 35 cents of every dollar that comes into your hands forever go away from you and your lineage. So, of course, they would do all they could to not have you become aware of it. This is why I talk to business people. I'm talking major business owners, millions and millions and million assets, money, high income earners, and you ask them, have you ever heard of the infinite banking concept? And they know other business, and the answer is no. Okay, and yet they have estate planners, they have financial advisors, there's dynamics like that. Okay, this is the power of when you see it, you can't unsee it. Okay, and the power of proximity. All right, now I want to show you. Let's say it's 200K you put in your system, starting your banking business. Okay? There's 200K that's went in. That, of course, gives you access to another bucket. And let's say this bucket, cash value, has grown to 250K. Contractually, it gives you what? Access to money pool, mutual company, and of that money pool, you have access to your current cash value, 250K. Now, I haven't addressed it much because we've been dealing with how most people are those that would start off like me, and they first hear about or approach it from seeing the power of this system and purchasing things you already purchased, okay, throughout your lifetime. And the power of you need a place to store cash, have emergency funds, savers, things like that, okay? So I haven't dealt with it much up to this point, but you cannot underestimate that there is a major, major other dynamic and bucket that you contractually, once money goes in here, get, and that's the death benefit. The guaranteed multiplier. Multiplier of your money. Okay, to your estate, to your beneficiary or beneficiaries. All right. Now, I'll say this because maybe you're starting to get informed enough and see it enough that now you have the question, why does the mutual company give me access to their money pool? Well, I've said multiple times, but one is because it's a mutual company, so there's not stockholders. So everybody that owns a contract and enters in unilaterally where you control and say, hey, I want to unite with you in what you're already doing and join my banking business that I'm starting with your longevity, track record, your assets, your know-how, your resources, your manpower, all your employees. I want to join with what you're already doing. And as that, then you're considered a part owner. So as part owner, you have first right then to the general money pool. Okay? Just like as things in my life that I oversee and assets and places as a leader, overseer, guess who has that master key that can unlock every door, get access to all of it? That's right, me, one who is a steward, an overseer of that. So as a part owner, you have first right to the money pool. contractually. All right? So that's why they do it. But secondly, what you got to understand, the reason they'll do it is, let's say of the 250K here, you pull out 100K as a policy loan. Why do you get to dictate the terms of the loan? When you pay it back, how you pay it back. Long term, your system gets strong enough if you pay it back. Now, a good banker would always want to pay it back, but we can have those conversations. But why do they leave you alone? Because the death benefit that they are already guaranteed will pay out at your departure, or whoever the contract life insurance whole life dividend paying contract is on, especially the design one that allows the system, they're already guaranteed that they pay out that much, so they use what they've already are on the hook and guaranteed to pay out. They use it as the collateral for that 1K loan. So if someone were to pass away while the $100,000 loan is outstanding, they just reduce this death benefit, this multiplier of every dollar you put in here. They would just reduce it 100K when that money got paid to your beneficiary or estate. Okay? And so some people say, well, why do I care about death benefit? Well, as a believer, there's many reasons. Now, you might not, but for me, again, God's the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. So God doesn't just think about Chad Craig. He thinks about, as a husband and now a father, he thinks about my lineage. Even in the Old Covenant, in the Ten Commandments, God spoke about generations. And I have mercy upon those that fear me to 1,000 generations. God is a God that thinks long term, has an eternal purpose, but he can encounter and meet us in the now. And that's the power of the system. It serves us in the now a better way, a more efficient way, not an either or, but a both and. Your money contractually growing at a guaranteed rate of interest, earning dividends, and yet you still have access to the liquidity of it to utilize for the banking business you enter into. Okay? But then also, it's a multiplier of money so that it passed down to the next generation or my estate, who hopefully, as a believer, a follower, according to Paul's letter to Timothy, teach my children in the ways and the teachings of the Lord, of healthy biblical money mindsets, and how, as we prosper, we lay aside to help others and to do businesses and projects that bless towns. The blessing of the upright lifts the city, Scripture says. Blessing of the upright. Crime decreases. Poverty decreases. I'm standing recording in a facility that used not to be here, and us being sent and trusting and obeying God and doing it now has employees that didn't exist before, now has revenue that comes into the city that didn't exist before. Blessing of the upright blesses also the city. So these are dynamics of why, but this is how it works. Now, back to this illustration. So here's what I want you to think about the power of this system. Cash value is $250K. Let's say in a conservative way that this in 1 year is growing at a 4% rate of return. 4% on the total bucket, 250, in 1 year means it would grow to 260K. So that's a 10K plus 10K in 1 year. All right? Now, the 100K let's say you accessed at 5%. So 4%, access at 5%. I'm going to show you why getting hung up on the small details don't matter when you think big enough, you think infinite enough, you think velocity enough, you think volume enough, because a 100K loan at 5% is 5,000. 5K. So at the end of 1 year, your cost of capital, your cost of liquidity, remember there's always a cost. Don't deceive yourself. Oh, I pay cash. Well, you lost all the interest you could have forever earned on that money. So if you paid cash, this system earned $10,000 this year. That's 1 year. The next year, it's $260 plus 4%. The next year, you see, uninterrupted compounding growth. Your cost of capital, your control to control your system and these liberties for that 1 year was 5K. But your system earned 10K. So guess what, friends? Did it really cost you something that year? Did it really? Because your system's up plus 5K that year. Now, when you think about this and go back and watch previous episodes and think about the illustrations we drew when it comes to a cash mentality, a credit mentality, or a banking mentality, you begin to see the power of this. And one of the things that tries to hinder us from seeing this is because some of us, in the context we grew up in, and even especially as believers, many contexts, we heard credit's such a bad thing. Interest, paying interest. But no one ever said, oh, actually, if you pay cash for a car, $30,000 car, when you understand cost of capital, it costs you more than $30,000. How much would that $30,000 have earned even in a system like this at 4%? Not even talking about all the other benefits. Safe, contractual, guaranteed rates, liquidity pool, free from judgments. This growth, tax deferred, and if you do it right, then becomes tax-free access. Like so many benefits. So this is not an either or. This is a both and. A both and. 5K. It's the power of it. Well, this is it for this episode. We're talking about starting your banking business. You're already involved in the banking business. You're just not intentionally leading it probably right now. And so why not you not just do what you're called to do in your work, your career, but also intentionally start your banking business today. Set up a clarity call. You can also go online, our webpage, moneymindsetmatter.com. Okay, there's a place there you can request a clarity call. If you're not already following us, do that. Hit the like, subscribe button. All right, keep up with this also on Instagram. Let others know about it. We appreciate you. We'll see you next time on Money Mindsets Matter. I'm Chad Craig. Remember, money doesn't matter, then what's to matter? If you're not preparing, you're not prepared.